Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Johnson. Welcome to the third and final webinar in our three-part series on how GIS plays a strong role in utility and telecom emergency management. Each webinar addresses one of the three stages: prepare, respond, and recover. During today's webinar on recover, we will show the power of ArcGIS for analysis, priorities, work execution, and recovery communication. This webinar is being recorded and will be available to watch in approximately 1 week. Please enter your questions or comments in the questions dialog box at any time during the presentation. If we have time, we will answer questions at the end of the webinar. In any case, we promise to send the answers to all your questions in a document along with the link to the recording, so please don't hesitate to submit those questions. Joining me today are several of my colleagues: Bill Meehan, Director of Electric Utility Solutions; Jessica Altamira, a solution engineer supporting the utilities and telecom team; and Matthew Groves, a solution engineer who supports the Esri water team. We also have a special video presentation from Mike Burry, the engineering supervisor of GIS from Nashville Electric Services. Here's our agenda for today. We'll see a short video from Nashville Electric Services. Bill will provide a webinar series overview. Jessica will demonstrate priority planning. Matt and Jessica will show work execution and recovery communication, and Bill will cover key takeaways. We have a lot to get through, so let's go ahead and get started. Please welcome my colleague, Bill Meehan.
Thanks, Joe. Mike was very kind to create a video of a real storm event and NES's response and recovery from it, and how GIS greatly improved the process. After Mike had agreed to do this, Nashville Electric had yet another major outage event and had to juggle making the video with his duties dealing with the outages. So let's get to it. Joe, please play the video.
On March 3rd, 2020, Tennessee was hit by strong storms that stretched across the state, spawning deadly tornadoes, killing dozens of people and injuring hundreds more. Nashville had a devastating tornado push through the middle of town that reached high EF3 strength with wind speeds estimated at 165 miles per hour and placed 50,000 people without power. Nearly 200 properties had structures destroyed, and over 500 more had sustained major damage. 119 roads were closed off due to trees, poles, wire, and debris blocking travel. Blue tarps began covering homes as residents worked to protect themselves and their property from the elements. 15 transmission and 20 distribution circuits were locked out. 100 broken poles were reported immediately, and that number continued to climb steadily. Eventually, 750 poles would be found broken as crews could get to the areas. This storm would be responsible for the largest number of broken poles in 25 years. All NES crews were called in and placed on 14 to 16-hour rotating shifts. Hundreds of contract personnel were brought in from neighboring states and beyond. This resulted in a crew workforce totaling 230 bucket trucks, along with their associated support vehicles and teams. Engineering personnel were called in to assess system damage and create engineering estimates for material going back out to the field.
We started printing paper, which is a slow, inefficient process. We were in the very early stages of a mobile GIS project, and it could not be used. Then we got a call from Mike Foley at Esri, who offered the assistance of Esri's disaster response program, along with Matt Baber's expertise. Based on our data and process requests, Matt was able to quickly provide us a collector for ArcGIS application and ArcGIS dashboards on ArcGIS Online. But we only had one tablet. It would then be back to paper, unless the engineering employees would agree to use their personal phones. When asked at our early morning assessment meeting who would be willing to use their personal phones for the data collection, everyone offered up their phones to get the app. That's why Tennessee is known as the volunteer state. With the collector for ArcGIS app in place, engineering teams spread out across the city and covered the areas affected, cataloging damage and entering replacement equipment information needed to restore service. The dashboards allowed office personnel the ability to monitor in near real time damage reports coming in and to interact with the field personnel if questions arose based on their data entry, while the field personnel were still on site. A few crew supervisors and managers even took to entering damage information in the app or reporting back when work was completed. And this was done without training or being requested to perform this work. So adoption of the new technology became an easy extension of work already being performed. Collector for ArcGIS was the keystone of our damage assessment process for the storm response. It was easy to learn, both in programming and use by end users, and it allowed our field and office personnel to work much faster than with paper. Additionally, errors with transcribing written field notes on paper are non-existent in a digital application. Without having been trained, we created our own collector app in a few hours. We used this app to recheck all crew work after the storm, gathering new pole and transformer information for placement in the GIS. It worked fast. We checked 2,000 points of interest in 60 man-hours. We also created and used our own dashboard to see the work done by the field personnel and communicate with them on the information they were gathering, saving the requirement for a future visit. We appreciate both the people and programs of Esri that assisted us so greatly in helping to restore power back to our customers and city. Thank you so much for volunteering in our time of need. Stay safe, y'all.
Again, I want to thank NES and Mike for showing us how the whole team responded so well to benefit their customers. Kudos to them. So working during a major event is stressful. I know weeding through reams of paper or gazing at paper maps hanging on a wall just adds to the stress and confusion. Dealing with a major emergency requires three things: prepare strategically, respond rapidly, and recover methodically. GIS does what paper or legacy processes could never do. It communicates what is really happening on the ground. One of my mentors used to say, you can't determine the strength of a pole when the wind is gusting at 125 miles per hour. It's too late. So we discussed three elements during our first webinar, the Prepare webinar. Number one, external impacts. GIS assembles information you'd need most later, such as COVID-19 data, flood maps, earthquake zones, lightning-prone areas, and many more. These are factors the utility or telecom cannot control, but can account for. Number two, network vulnerability. Next are the things that are within their control. Let's face it, the infrastructure is not perfect. Companies need to accurately determine their weak places. They also need to understand if a part of the network fails, what are the consequences? And third, craft a plan. Here's the magic of ArcGIS. Combining network vulnerability with external impacts reveals hidden insights. It gives emergency planners the right data to build meaningful scenarios. So last week, we addressed the response stage. This is during or just after the event. We discussed three major activities that are supported by GIS. Number one, damage assessment. collecting all the jobs we will need to perform to get the lights back on, the gas and water flowing, and the internet alive again. Situational awareness. During this process, GIS gives an accurate picture of what's going on right now by location. And public outreach. Here during the chaos and damage, it's critical that the public know exactly what the situation is. Today, we're dealing with the recovery stage. This is the long and arduous process of putting the network back together. GIS supports in 3 ways. 1, priority analysis. The companies have done the damage assessment. Now they need to figure out how best to dispatch crews, how to deal with critical facilities, to order the restoration process. Number 2 is workforce execution. This can be a logistical nightmare. Utilities and telecoms must make choices. Which areas are more important than others to work on? And 3, recovery communication. People are restless. Lights are out. Water and gas are not flowing. And communication is limited. Businesses are shuttered. Roads and bridges are out. Okay, so let's get into it. Priority analysis. There's much work to be done. How do we choose what to tackle first? There are 3 questions to ponder. How to analyze the damage for the most efficient recovery. How to craft the logical sequence of work given our crew locations and status. And how to focus to meet the greatest need. So I'm going to turn it over to Jessica. Jessica, can you demonstrate how the technology can help to answer these questions? Jessica, take it away.
Thanks, Bill. That was a great recap of the previous webinars. So now let's continue that story by using location analytics to prioritize your utility's resources and staff as you enter that last phase, recovery. Getting your utility back up on its feet means prioritizing the safety and service to the customers. While this is a huge team effort, let's follow the current mission of an operations team who must address issues related to a recent earthquake by identifying how many customers have been impacted and their utility needs. Secondly, they must also determine the best field crew to perform repairs based on the quickest and safest driving routes. So a damage report has described that a street has been split in half and broken this water main to the north. According to some of the staff who is already at the damaged site, the broken street rubble has made it more of a challenge for vehicles to navigate and physically reach the customers on Levon Ave. With the rest of the surrounding neighborhoods getting utility services restored, this street requires additional time and equipment to recover. 12 customers on Levon Ave have reported either no water, power, internet, or gas. One of these customers is a known reported critical medical facility. Due to our current pandemic challenges, it's important to track and include COVID-19 treatment facility locations on the map so the team can see where and what exactly that facility's purpose holds. This facility is in fact the Truckee Suites Hotel that is temporarily converted to a COVID-19 treatment center. Although they have reported lost internet and hot water, they require an immediate emergency backup generator to continue treating patients in case of a power outage and with the extended utility recovery time. So now the operations team must immediately send a field crew member to that location with an emergency generator. This brings us to the next objective of prioritizing what field crew to send over. Stay-at-home policies and social distancing practices mean the crew members could be at home, they could be at warehouses, or they could be in the field in performing asset inspections. On the map, we have 5 individuals that could drive over who are available to that temporary medical hotel. Understanding not only their whereabouts, but what is close in proximity to them can further determine their dispatch ranking. The red lines show the evacuation roads, which is important to consider if it's being highly occupied by the public to impact their drive time. The orange pins represent staging areas that house the service trucks and the resource needed for this mission, the emergency generators. So let's confirm just how long these employees must drive by doing a drive time analysis and using the hotel as its main starting point. First, here's a 5-minute or less drive time area highlighted in green There are 2 employees within that range. Just in case backup is needed, here's an extension to a 10-minute drive time. The yellow highlight intersects an additional crew members around Donner Lake. One of them is near a staging location. Just to be safe, criteria is upped to a 15-minute drive time. The orange area intersects one crew member out in the suburbs who we could consider to be a standby. The results show a direct correlation to prioritizing the crew members in the 5-minute drive time area as the 2 most convenient employees to send. However, this is a scenario in an ideal situation. In times when natural disasters could strike in multiple areas throughout a week or even months, navigation may not be as simple. With that same objective in mind, here's a scenario where Mother Nature has thrown a few road obstacles. To the north, we have a reported damage location because harsh winds and rains have caused a mudslide and large rocks to fall on the 1 main highway that connects to downtown Truckee. This could affect the travel time of our crew member to the east, who was in the top 2 ranking to send to the hotel. To the south, we have a wildfire that's brought down large trees on top of a bridge that connects at the mouth of Donner Lake. This could impact our other employee who lives just west of the incident. So with these new obstacles, the same analysis could produce drastically different results of the crew ranking. That 5-minute drive time area now only contains that 1 available employee. The employee to the north now falls outside of the original drive time due to that rock fall. Let's expand to that 10-minute drive time, where it now only intersects 1 employee to the north as well. Previously, this employee to the south was available, but now that wildfire has extended his or her drive time. Finally, the orange highlight produced the same results, but this employee in the suburbs is now moved up in the ranks because 2 employees are not even within the 15-minute drive time limit. So these individuals either have to go out of their way to go to downtown Truckee or go more north before going south. The operations team has the option of sending the top 3 individuals, but they decide to not consider the other 2 as their drive route will put them in danger. So the operations team decides that within the 5-minute area, Matt Groves will be assigned to deliver and set up the emergency generator since he is at a staging area. Additionally, Jonas Rugius, who is within the 10-minute drive time, will join him and has the additional task of assisting in asset recovery. The operations team has successfully identified vulnerable customers, their utility needs, and prioritized the best routes and crew to accomplish this mission. Now, a dispatch team can use these same results and communicate the assignment to these individuals. But before they do, let's do a quick recap with Bill.
Well, thanks, Jess. So we saw like a drive time analysis and really all of the priority of putting people in the right place at the right time to optimize also staging areas as well. And most importantly, to address the greatest need. Okay, so now for the real work, execution, getting things actually fixed. Decisive execution requires answering these 3 questions. How can location technology optimize work assignments? How can mobile technology enhance work execution? And what's the best way to foster workforce collaboration? So I'm going to turn it over to Matt. And Matt, so let's demonstrate how ArcGIS can answer these questions. Okay, take it away, Matt.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Now we're going to take a look at how you can use ArcGIS to deploy crews to perform the actual recovery work and monitor the progress of that work. As the operations manager, I have a dashboard that gives me a clear view of critical emergency response information that is coming in, such as damage assessments, outage information, and updates on emergency COVID-19 facility locations. What I'm interested most in is the outage area in the center of our map. I can see that there's a water main break and a COVID-19 medical facility without power. I can also see that there are 55 patients at the facility, and we need to send out a crew with a generator to restore power to the facility as soon as possible. We also need to send out a crew to deal with the water main break and turn valves to stop further water loss and damage to property. Now I'm going to pivot from the role of operations manager to the role of a dispatcher. Now in Workforce, as the dispatcher, I can create assignments for field crews to investigate the water main break and deliver and install a generator at the COVID-19 facility. Based on Jessica's drive time analysis in the previous demo, I know that I need to assign Jonas Ruggies to investigate the water main break. I'm going to assign myself to install a temporary generator at the emergency COVID facility. Now we can see that I've already assigned myself to install the new generator at the COVID facility. Now let's assign Jonas to investigate the water main break. Go here, use that location of the water main break. We'll create an assignment. This will be type leak investigation. We're going to assign Jonas. Make this a high priority assignment with today's due date. And give it an ID for that assignment. We'll create that assignment. All right, now I'm going to pivot again from the role of a dispatcher to the role of the field crew. As you can see on the screen, I'm mirroring my iPad for a view of what the field crew would see. I can see that I've received my assignment to drop off and install the generator. If I select my assignment, down at the bottom, you can see that it wants me to acknowledge that. And when I do that, that'll let my dispatcher know that I'm on the job. Now I'm going to start my assignment. Okay, now my assignment is started and I'm going to travel to the emergency COVID facility and drop off the generator, install it, and restore power. Once that's done, I can use Collector to let everybody know that I've restored power to this facility. We can go in and we can edit some information about the facility. We can see we have the facility type and the name and the number of occupants, but most importantly here we have the status as power out. I'm going to update that to power on and submit that to my ArcGIS Online organization. Lastly, I'm going to return to Workforce and finish my assignment. Now if I pivot back to my operations view, we can see that the information is updated for the emergency COVID facility and it shows that the power is restored. Now further, once the power is restored to this entire area, we're going to want to update the information associated with this outage polygon. And to do that, I'm going to pivot over into my web map where I can update that information as well. I can select that polygon and change that information to show as restored and save it. Now that information can be shared within my organization or pushed out and shared with the public. And Jessica's going to talk more about this in the next demo. Back to you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So Matt was able to illustrate targeting high priority work areas, and then he was able to leverage mobile technology. And the last thing we talked about is he really looked at rigorous documentation. During major outages, crews strive to get gas, power, water, everything up and running fast. Often, though, they use whatever they can get their hands on. Well, that's fine, but then the company loses control over the accuracy of the data. So having rigorous documentation is critical. The last stage is recovery communication. Communication requires a full enterprise approach. Here are some questions we might ask. What's the best way to foster collaboration and coordination? How best to deliver the right message in a timely manner, and how to organize the messaging. So I'm going to turn it over to Jess again. And can you demonstrate the process of recovery communication to provide insight into these questions? Jess?
Thanks again, Bill. So that progress made by the utility was monitored internally, like we saw in Matt's Control Center dashboard. That same information is just as vital to the public because they rely heavily on the utility services. So a simple way to communicate the recovery progress is by using maps to show the near real-time outage updates. This example of the Esri Utilities public website communicates the latest outage reports and efforts on this map. An impacted customer or a site viewer can either type in an address or click on a known outage area to see when it was first reported and an estimated restoration time. Let's take this Prosser Lake community outage. They have about a 2-day restoration time due to debris cleanup from recent wildfires. With situations like this, the residents can use the map and look for nearby warehouses that contain emergency generators for their house, as shown by these orange symbols. The pop-ups contain operation hours and how a customer can reserve or pick up a temporary electric generator. Once all customers in an outage area have their utilities restored, the area status is updated, just like how we saw Matt change the status from reported to restored for Levon Ave. Here we can see just minutes ago that on May 25th, 2020 at 9:19 a.m., Levon Ave was successfully restored. Utility-specific data on a map enables your organization to be more transparent about public communication. Just to the bottom of the map are additional resources and icons that could be found, where you could show authoritative resources to display COVID-19 testing facilities, like we see here in the blue icons. And here's more information about the generator loans. And lastly, you can find physical service centers for bill payment. By combining this information and showing near real-time outage reports, this could make your simple outage map more valuable to the community that you serve. A recovery process may be minutes, hours, days, or months. So what better way to show geographical progress than with maps? So to wrap up the recovery process, I'll finally pass it back to you, Bill.
Thanks, Jess. So without communication, the others, collaboration and coordination, just can't exist. During a crisis when lives are at risk, property is damaged, and tensions skyrocket, communication is critical. I love this quote from a political analyst, Michael Schmakonish. It says, "Communication is an underappreciated skill. It requires hard work and planning." All right, so the key takeaways from this webinar are, number one, priority analysis. It's critical that utilities and telecoms analyze the damage methodically. Plan carefully using the tools that GIS provides, such as drive time analysis. Number two, work execution. They must execute the work in the most efficient way. Confusion extends the outage. Lack of solid work sequencing leads customers to ask, why not me first? And recovery communication, that underappreciated skill, requires patience during the hurricane. So patience during the hurricane, fire, and earthquake is high at the beginning of the earthquake. Everybody is kind of patient at that point. But it wanes quickly after the event. I know. We were heroes one day and villains the next. Once the goodwill is lost, the road for the utility and telecom becomes much more difficult. So thank you all for visiting with us during these 3 weeks. We hope that you have gained from this experience. And if you think of a question later, don't hesitate to contact any of us. So back to you, Joe.
Great. Thanks, Bill, Mike, Jessica, and Matt. It looks like we have run out of time again for questions. As I stated in the beginning, we'll be sending out answers to your questions along with the recording of this webinar in about 1 week. I'd like to give another reminder. Please consider attending our virtual Esri International User Conference. It's free to all customers who are current in maintenance. As a customer, the UC is available to everyone in your organization, but you must register. Finally, thank you for attending our webinar series on emergency management. We hope to see you on another webinar series in the future. Have a good day.